go ahead and call. Good morning. Thank you, Matt, for starting the recording this morning. We'll go ahead and call the Transportation Authority of Calhoun County October 28th, 2025 meeting to order. Madam Secretary, if you could do roll call, please.
Indeed. Okay, Tom Tarkowitz.
Here.
Eric Stewart.
Present.
Vivian Davis here. Amy Evans. Maya Williams.
Here.
Janesha Morris. And Dr. Paul Watson.
Okay, we do have
two members that are not here.
Yep, we do have quorum this morning, and we'll move right into the approval of the agenda.
Can I make a suggestion?
You certainly can at any time, Mr. Tarkowitz.
No one's opposed. Could we now move the approval of the minutes to the consent agenda?
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't either.
Just for today.
Anybody
For
else?
today or?
Oh, for the future.
Definitely. So we'll go ahead.
Matt has done such a good job.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and vote on that piece today, and then if no one's opposed, we'll move that into the consent agenda and kind of go from there. You know what? Let's do that. Pardon me?
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. So what we'll do just to make that official is I'll take that in a form of motion. Is there a second to move that to the consent agenda? It's been moved and seconded. All those opposed? All those four. Like, man, I'm negative this morning, right? All those, yeah, it was. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, so we'll move that, the approval of minutes, into the consent agenda. I've just changed my mind. We'll do that for today since this is part of the approval of the agenda. Is where we are. Any other agenda items we would like to move around? Okay. I'll go ahead and seek a motion for approval of the agenda.
So move.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported with those changes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. Public comments. Mr. Eric, how are you? Welcome this morning. Great.
Good.
Good morning.
The LDDA,
Lakeview Downtown Development Authority. Yes, it is. It covers the 66 to Capitol, Beckley Road up to the road Glen Cross-ish.
I was a taxpayer within the 4 districts that have paid for this taxes. I would be concerned as to the evidence of paying into something that was not on something to be voted upon. This is a unnecessary expense. But people didn't vote for that. Outside of what they voted for to improve transit to the people amongst the larger community. It's not allowing folks from Albion or Marshall to have input on it because it's a battle brief, but it didn't go back. And that's unnecessary in my opinion. If I, like I said, if I was a taxpayer within the 4 districts, I'd be out of concern when you're spending money going towards just one particular area that was not intended tax budget.
Good. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. The consent agenda, can I get a motion on the consent agenda, or let me ask this first. Does anything want to be removed from the consent agenda, understanding that the approval of the September 23rd minutes are now in the consent agenda as well? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Any public hearings or subsequent board action?
There's none.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the unfinished business, and that includes our LDDA financing plan. As you know, there's been some back and forth. We've sent an official piece in response to the original posture related to this. Mallory, if you can give us kind of a little 30-second historical piece, and then we'll get into the financing plan piece that we'll have before us today.
Yes, so the Lakeview Downtown Development Authority, or the LDDA, is one of many TIF districts that exist within our jurisdictions. Those tax increment financing authorities are, by law, allowed to capture the millages that fall within their boundaries. So they are an eligible authority or entity just like we are. And whenever somebody passes a millage, those authorities have the opportunity to capture those funds for the purposes of whatever their authority is doing. In this case, the Lakeview Downtown Development Authority, they had recently, and along with the city of Battle Creek, conducted a review of the Beckley Road corridor, and a study came up with a plan to revitalize the Beckley Road corridor and redesign it. And so now they're in the phase of creating a 30-year financing plan to implement the recommendations of that study. That 30-year plan must be approved by the Battle Creek City Commission, and it goes through a public comment period, a public hearing, and then finally an ordinance adoption for the city of Battle Creek. This was on the city of Battle Creek's agenda at the end of September. And in your packet, you note that we provided 2 letters to the city of Battle Creek Commission expressing our opposition to the proposed LDDA financing plan. The proposed financing plan initially proposed to capture 100% of the authority's millage over the next 30 years. However, not all of the millages that fall within those boundaries were being captured, and none of the other millages were being captured at 100%. For the authority, that was nearly $12 million that would have been redirected from its intended purpose of providing transportation to economic development. Now, we recognize that there's an intersection between economic development and public transit, and that, you know, the Beckley Road corridor serves us as much as we serve them. And we have asked the city of Battle Creek to reconsider their proposed financing plan to make the authority a more equitable partner in that distribution of funding. So in your packet is an attached proposed financing plan that the city has since revised, which puts us at a much more equitable share. Now, we intend to be a partner with the city and with the LDDA. However, there is no legal stance on our opposition. So they are fully entitled to capture 100%. They can do that with or without our support. But the city is willing to consider our feedback, and they've proposed an alternate plan that puts us at 100% in year 1. So they will capture 100% of the TACC millage this year. Graduates down to about 35% in the years after, and then eventually stabilizes at about 9%, which is an equitable distribution to the size of our millage compared to some of the others and the revenue that it generates. I am satisfied with the revised proposal. I think that it's a more equitable distribution. It allows us to potentially have input on some of the improvements that need to be made from a transit perspective, from a non-motorized perspective, and just mobility in general. One of the other things that we've asked the city is to consider appointing somebody from the authority to the LDDA board so that we have an advisory capacity to be able to direct how these funds that were intended for transit can be spent in that jurisdiction. So there is no formal action required here unless the board chooses to, we previously publicly opposed this proposal that was initially drafted. If we wanted to now publicly support the revised plan, with your simple direction, I could draft a letter of support that acknowledges the city's effort to make a more equitable distribution.
Did I, excuse me, did I hear you say that not all entities are being included in that? So who isn't and why were we at 100%? And like, so can you just help us understand more of the details of that decisions?
Yes. So previously, because the LDDA wasn't active, they've always passed the funds through to all of the taxing authorities. So the city, the county, KCC, parks, seniors, veterans, school districts, they would pass those funds through. The thought behind the financing plan from my conversations with city staff have been that the authority was new, never had this money before, and therefore kind of wouldn't miss the money.
That was their thinking on us, on the attack?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's, I have no words for that.
Is there
Not
any
by-
other taxing authorities that they're capturing 100% or not capturing at all?
At this time, we do not have any pass-through agreements with any TIFs.
Not us, but I'm saying the LDDA.
So LDDA will be capturing the city, the county, the KCC, and the TAC millage. All other millages are uncaptured. They're passed through.
Can you explain why that is?
Yes.
I do not know why that is. Yes.
Well, is this, can we like have a dialogue and
Yeah.
talk about that? Okay,
That's
so,
what we're doing.
I can see both sides. I can see how we'd want to be partners. And I can see Eric's point too, especially when I'm now learning that they're not capturing from other places they could be capturing from. And then if it was more distributed, then maybe it would be less from the ones they've chosen to, instead of, leaving some out and putting some in and at different amounts. And well, maybe they're now all at the same amount, potentially, I don't know, but it just seems like more information is needed, I think. I don't know. That just seems odd to me, I guess. It would be interesting, and maybe it doesn't matter, but it would be interesting to know why some were left out and some were chosen.
And I wouldn't want to speculate on why the LDDA and or the city made that decision. I know that some of the millage rates are relatively small. So, the Parks millage, for example, is a smaller millage. I don't know how much it would generate, but I understand the point that, even a proportionate share across all of the millages. And ultimately, whatever the board decides today is the feedback we'll take back to the city on the proposal. We have engaged our attorneys, and legally, again, there is no legal stance for opposition. They can capture 100%. But it, has to go through city commission. It was on the city commission agenda in September. And because of some, public pushback, the public was contacting their commissioners. Our own opposition to it as a board had, caused the city to pull it from the city commission agenda in September so that we could come back and rediscuss it.
I mean, for me, it just seems hard to make a firm decision without more information. Like, I don't feel well informed enough to say, yes, let them capture the 35%, or I think that's what the amount was,
Mhm.
generally speaking, or, not. I mean, to be opposed to it completely. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I just feel like
So,
more information would be helpful.
absolutely. Can I ask a question? And if you don't feel comfortable, just let me know. Doc, was there any, you're part of that capture with KCC, and you have been for a while. Are you comfortable with sharing any logic that you've learned in terms of why those parts are captured based on KCC's piece? Because the original was 100%. So the amended posture is more in line with what they're doing with KCC and others. Have you ever learned of a logic that precipitated your capture amount?
So, yeah, I got no problems sharing that. So, yeah, KCC as a public institution receives taxes, and to our leaders' point, we could, for example, KCC, right? So I'm talking about my role in KCC. We could share opposition, but we could not stop. Right. So that's the first thing to understand from this perspective. So having known that, a conversation was had wherein we were, here's what we think, I'm talking about from the city, where based upon inflation, is it pretty close to where you would be receiving now? So that way you would not have a negative impact to your budget, right? That was a conversation I had. Now, when you take away inflation or whatever those property taxes increases would be, it actually still negatively impacts an institution who depends upon that increases. Because, for example, we got to pay light bills, we got to pay heating bills. Those have never, in my 7 years in Michigan, those bills have never stayed the same from year to year, right? So taking away an inflationary amount puts you behind, without a doubt, right? But that's where the conversation occurred. So during my conversation, it was not about other entities, for example, TACC. It was 100%, here's what currently you receive from this amount, here's what we're thinking about doing. What's your thoughts on it? So my feedback as related to my institution was, rather than start at super high, was to, if this is the will of this body, that body, then to at least allow a staggered approach. So that way this could be built into projections and future planning, because it just, if I have to adjust to a loss, give me time to figure out how I could account for this loss, right? So that was my only feedback to that authority, maybe about 6 months ago.
That's helpful to know. Two thoughts came to mind. One is, we're only talking about the incremental increase in the taxes, right? Are we talking?
It's the full 2.66 mils.
That they would be capturing if they did 100%?
Yeah.
Okay, but I was thinking I guess I had my tax increment finance authority hat on, thinking that we're talking about the LDDA being a TIFA district, and they would be capturing only the incremental increase in the taxes that are generated from the improvements that they make. So the base amount that wouldn't change, right? Is that true? And then the other thing, I guess, was you talked about there being a difference, like, leading up to, give us some time, I think I heard you say that, but I thought I heard you say it would maybe be 100%, then 35, then 9, and to me, that's like upside down.
Mhm.
It seems like we would want it to be lower and then higher if we're gonna stagger it, instead of it being higher than lower, but maybe I'm not understanding it correctly.
Yes, so year one, this fiscal year would be 100%. So for example, in this fiscal year 2026, the 2.66 mils within the LDDA boundaries is estimated to generate $283,545. They would retain all of that. In year two, the 2.66 mils would generate about 290,000. They would retain 56,000. So it graduates up to the 35%. So year three would be 75,000 they'd retain out of the 2.66 mils until it got to the 35% in year five. And then it stabilizes at the 35% for the remaining 25 years, which is, roughly $150,000 a year that they would retain, for a total of 4.2 million over the 30 years out of the roughly 12 million that the millage generates. So they would pass through 8 million over the 30 years and retain about 4 million.
And so that too is dependent on TAC. So is the first 5 years because we have a 5-year millage?
I'm sure.
And then, we have to go back to the voters to ask again, to renew the millage, and maybe it would be at the same amount and maybe it would be a different amount. And
We did discuss that, it seemed somewhat risky to make a 30-year financing plan based on a millage that has to be renewed every 5 years, and that could be a variable millage. That wasn't a long-term concern for the city or the authority that was making this plan. So this process, it is a public process, right? The city has followed all of the appropriate steps. They've had steering committees. They've had a formalized plan now. They did a public hearing. They did a public notice as required. This is an example of where I guess our partnerships kind of start in we have to watch for public notices now. We have to, rezoning and things like that impact us moving forward from a tax-based perspective.
Yes,
Any other questions?
as I read through it, of course, I don't do that every day.
Question.
Oh, bless you. I was concerned, well, in terms of agreeing with it or at least establishing the relationship is to maintain a positive partnership by looking at it from different sides. So, and our millage, if I remember correctly, wasn't it discussed that, the 2.5% this year, this 5 years, but in the next 5 years, it may be less.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
the variations could occur either way.
well, I think each year it's up to 2.66 mils.
2.6.
per year. So
Mhm.
each year within that 5 years, it could vary.
It could
It just
vary,
can't
yeah.
exceed that amount.
2.6, right? Mhm,
Yeah.
6.
Do you have then Maya, Ms. Williams, I'll come to you.
I'm just,
If you had a question, not necessarily an opinion, but you can offer an opinion.
I'm just trying to get in my mind because we have a district library and I'm trying to relate the two. They're on record that if there's a new authority, like we created 2 new authorities, TIFAs, and they said they want all the money. The library keeps the money that they generate. and we did what's called a Neighborhood Improvement Authority. And they would not give any money of their, and then, but we met with the president of KCC at the time, and they felt that the giving up their share of what we generate in that Neighborhood Improvement Authority will add more students, more housing. The county agreed also. And so I'm, in my mind, I'm trying to wrap around. I guess I'm trying to, why are we different? It was too early in the morning for me to just.
No, it's not too early. Those are valid questions. Did you?
No, that's the only thing that's why I'm sitting here.
There was an observation in that. Okay. Ms. Williams, did you have a question, or you good?
More or less like how Tom feels. I'm just trying to process why this is in this manner. So I'm just processing.
Okay. So Mallory, correct me if I'm wrong, just for clarity purposes, this is an area that is with the Beckley Road corridor and Capitol Avenue Southwest is what we're talking about. Okay.
Yes.
So based on a little bit of Tom's observation, has this logical direction. While I'm appreciative of the posture has changed from 100% for 30 years, which gave me pause. And some adjustment has been made that has been more equitable, in line with whether we agree with it or not, with KCC and some other folks that they have chosen in terms of the capture, if you will. So my question is that I have as a taxpayer, and that other taxpayers may ask me that have invested through voting in the TACC. For that percentage, 100% the first year and the incremental, what's the value added for that region that they would get with that capture? Will there be, I know we have a strategy of improving the region. Absent that money, I would assume that they would need those funds, not for average services, but some type of value added improvement for that corridor. That corridor is very important. I can understand the logic of why you want to capture that. That's, you get where I'm coming from? So part of our response would be, okay, it seems equitable, but please give us your logic on the capture, and can you surmise those improvements that our taxpayers that invested through voting in the TACC can expect for that corridor? Because that will impact, I mean, we can't double up our costs, right?
Yeah.
So
I do think-
does everybody understand my logical? Okay.
I do think, the initial proposal that was 100%, put the authority as financing 25% of the complete Beckley Road project. The city and the consultants did invite transit to participate on the steering committee and the stakeholder groups that helped develop the plan, along with Jeff Franklin from BCATS. Christy was on that committee, and there are many non-motorized elements to that plan. There's housing development, economic development in placemaking, green spaces, all of that. And there is an opportunity for transportation, public transit, private, to be incorporated into the redesign of Beckley Road. I think with the $4.2 million that they would be retaining, there's probably $4 million worth of non-motorized projects, whether we're talking, if, again, we're thinking of mobility holistically, we're talking sidewalk, pedestrian access, ADA improvements across the corridor, pathways, trails, connecting, shopping. There's definitely $4 million worth of non-motorized improvements or transit-related improvements within that corridor included in the plan. But I do think that the TACC should have at least an advisory capacity on that LDDA board to help guide the priority of those projects and make sure that transit isn't an afterthought if we're financing this.
So I would classify that as request number 2 in our series, where's the value added? And are we able to act in an advisory capacity relative to that board going forward? Any other
Yeah.
comments?
Just, you know, in addition to the questions, do you have ideas that you can share in terms of value added, a component regarding tax intent?
Specifically for the Beckley Road corridor, like
Yes. Mhm.
projects, you mean?
Yes.
So I think a quick, easy one they could do is improving bus shelters. There's a lot of proposed improvements to the mall area, which we serve pretty heavily. And, you know, kind of creates an opportunity to build some transfer centers or transit specific spaces. If we're talking about high density housing, apartment complexes, hotels, things like that, making sure that when they design the parking lots, that it's big enough for a bus to go in, that there's passenger amenities like bus shelters, things like that. So I think if we're looking at a project that could be completed year 1, bus shelters would be an easy one to replace up and down Beckley Road.
And that's why I asked the question the way I did. Mallory, thank you, Mallory, for your response. You have given you have given the city or the folks who made the decision kind of a softball response, but I would really want them to respond based on their plan of how that's incorporated so I can speak equitably to the taxpayers about this is what that capture would get you. I hope some of those things are the case, but what I hope is not the case is Mallory has just articulated those simple value-added improvements. You utilize that capture money for something else, and your expectation is that the TAC facilitate those improvements in that corridor like we'd facilitate everywhere else. I have a problem with that.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So I don't want to discuss what ifs. I want them to tell me what their strategy is going forward based on their logic of the capture. That's why I asked them that specific way. So if we can take those things back, 2 things, what we learned today about, give me your phrasing this, what do I tell the taxpayers that their value add will be for that corridor given this capture? Okay.
In other words, does that mean like, what is their plan for our part of the money?
You can phrase it up however you want.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Plan, you know, incorporate what is needed.
I just need to know what your plan is. We'll get to that secondary. Okay. I just need to understand what your thoughts are, and then we can incorporate that with what our strategy would have been. And then that's the logic of, if I'm sitting in an advisory capacity, I could bring some of our transportation laden ideas to the table to affect change in that plan. You get where I'm going? That's more of a cooperative relationship type thing versus we're just going to do whatever with the money. So if we can give our feedback on the financing plan based on what you articulated, plus add those 2 caveats in response back to this board, does that seem like a reasonable request going forward?
Yes.
So show where our goals overlap, right? And that's where they would hopefully use the.
In theory, I would need to hear a response first.
They say first.
Deal, that would be great to see that there's an overlap and that the funding will be used
Doc,
there.
you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, Doc's good. Anything else? Do we need to take action on that? We've got a direction and we've given you the authority to execute.
Yep.
All right, great. All right. Let's move on to where that was just unfinished business. We have new business. We have a series of resolutions. If we can go through facilitating action on these, Mallory will give us a little bit of context on each one of those, and we will roll through those as we normally do with resolutions.
Yes. First up is Resolution 19-2025. would give Christy Gristini, who's the Director of Administration and Planning, and myself, it would give us authority to be signatories on the bank account so that we can now transition all of the financing, finance activities from the board to staff.
What are the current signatory rules? 2 signatures, or what are those?
We currently have one signature. The Maynard Custerson is drafting up a policy that establishes the thresholds for single versus double signature, and then board approval versus executive director approval.
And
That'll be on the November agenda.
And the manager of that policy will be the treasurer of this body.
Yep, the finance committee. Yep.
Okay, just making that clear. All right. Okay, it's been moved. Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any other discussion that we haven't had? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Resolution 20?
Resolution 20-2025 it's a resolution to support the participation in Michigan Class, which is an investment pool. It's used by many municipalities and transit authorities. Maynard Custerson has established the relationship for us. At the last meeting, we adopted the investment policy, and then this would be the selected firm that we invest with.
Move, support, Watson.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Watson. He tried to move and support. but
Sorry.
We can only take one, sorry. We can only take one per person. So it's a matter of order. But I did hear Tom support that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great. Let's move on to 21, please.
Resolution 21-2025 is to purchase liability insurance. So under our support services agreements and just general practice, we should have general liability insurance. Our support service agreements established a $5 million minimum general liability. Because of the odd nature of the relationships right now where the authority is passing through funds to the cities, we don't physically have any assets and we don't physically have any employees. And so we had a very difficult time obtaining insurance. Wurgis Insurance out of Battle Creek was actually the only responsive broker who was able to secure general liability insurance up to that $5 million minimum. So before you is a resolution to approve that, those coverages. The general liability policy is a $1 million per occurrence with a $2 million aggregate. And the excess liability or umbrella policy is a $5 million. And that has already been paid. So because we took effect October 1st, we did enter into that agreement as a sole source. Essentially, we tried 6 different brokers. We weren't able to obtain any other competition. We've documented that and moved forward as a sole source.
Go ahead, Doc.
Move, Watson.
Okay.
Right.
It's been moved and supported. Just to add a little context, this was a very laborious process. Thank you, staff, for your patience. It was done in record time. Normally, these pieces take about 5 or 6 months, given who we are and how we got started. You have to understand from an insurance perspective, you had to have something to insure.
Yes.
And at this point, we didn't have any assets. However, we had federal responsibility after the designation over these assets, but transfer of authority and so on and so forth made it very difficult from an insurance perspective to say these vehicles. So there were many hybrid options and things of that nature. So I can understand an insurance company not wanting to, make a decision that quickly, 2, create an insurable event for something that was such a hybrid model. But luckily, we have some good partners in terms of getting those vehicles insured in the proper way and what have you, and getting proper coverage. This will be an ongoing piece as we build up Ride Calhoun and the authority and get more structure. So Mallory's on top of that, and she keeps the board informed, almost on an every other week basis. because this is a moving target. So I just wanted to give that caveat that a lot has happened in the background in this resolution. So it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion items, questions?
Just one quick comment. I believe this is for 1 year, right?
This is for 1 year, correct?
So, yeah, because my thought was that this time next year, you should get several more individuals bidding on
Yes.
this opportunity. So yeah, I just wanted to also say that part is, this is, as my grandfather would say, you dance with the girl that done brung you. This is the dance. This is the girl that didn't bring us to this point. And you've never heard that saying before?
Yeah, we've heard.
I
Yeah,
have never
are you really?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's, well, it must be a rite of passage for.
But full disclosure, I think that next time we go through this cycle, we should have a variety where we would want to look. again
100%.
for that. So I just wanted to make sure publicly we say, hey, it's only for 1 year, given the fact we only had one opportunity.
And that'll be based on transfer of assets, clarity, and transfer of individuals,
Correct.
associates.
So I anticipate sometime around February, we'll start that bid process for essentially insurance services. So not only will we need general liability, we'll need workers' comp, employee healthcare benefits, auto liability, pretty much everything out of the gate to be in policy through the board by July 1, which is our separation from the two cities. So we had a lot of, to Dr. Watson's point, we had a lot of interest from brokers who were like, yeah, I can do that. But then when they actually went out to market, no carriers were interested in insuring us.
100%. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. And just for clarity purposes, that was resolution 21-2025, insurance policy. Moving on to resolution 22.
Resolution 22-2025 is a resolution to enter into an agreement with Raymond, which is an auditing firm. And they helped us through an RFP for audit services. Our fiscal year ended September 30th. And so, we have 6 months to have an audit conducted and submit that audit to the state. We issued the RFP. We even extended the RFP. We didn't get any responses. And most of those responses were because of the newness of the authority, right? We didn't have an established relationship with anybody, even Maynard. They can't audit us because they're our finance firm or our accounting firm. But they kind of helped us reach out to 2 additional companies, Plant Moran and Raymond. We solicited letters of engagement from them. And then based on evaluation that included price and past experience, we've selected the lowest price, which was Raymond. And that is what is before you with the engagement letter, resolution 22-2025.
Approval.
Okay, it's been moved. Any support?
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Moving on to our last resolution, 23. Yeah.
So resolution 23-2025 would be to purchase a sponsorship table for the 69th Annual Armed Forces Appreciation Luncheon, which is next week in Battle Creek, hosted by the Battle Creek Chamber of Commerce. The cost is $1,500 to be a silver level sponsor, which includes advertisement, but as well as a table for the event, the luncheon, and 6 tickets. Our intent would be to sponsor this event, attend the event, and then invite our staff, of which we have at least 5 veterans, to attend that luncheon with our leadership.
It's been moved. Is there any support?
Great. Oh.
Great.
Is that a county event or just for Battle Creek?
It is communicated countywide. It's hosted by the Battle Creek Chamber, but it's a relatively large event. So it's open to anybody.
Any veteran?
Yes, I believe you have to purchase tickets.
Okay.
But I can forward you the link for
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Are there any Marshall Dollaride veterans, or are these all Battle Creek Transit veterans? I'm not either, but I'm just wondering if we're working together, if there were any in Marshall. Okay.
And there's room for them to attend.
So just for clarification purposes, and forgive me, so this is a resolution because this will be something we're doing annually? I mean, we're gonna get a lot of requests for
Sponsorships, advertisements, yeah.
And does that have to be a resolution every single time? Or are we proposing that this be something that we do for our veteran community every single year? Is that why it's here?
So I would say it's here because it was not a line item in the budget that was already approved. So moving forward, or when we do a mid-year budget adjustment, we can always add a line item for sponsorships, advertisements, things like that, to be a good community partner. Because we've already gotten, I think, 3 or 4 requests for things that I've distributed through the appropriate channels. But because this wasn't a line item in the budget, that is why it's coming before you as a separate resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Perfect. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Invite Mr. Eric back to the podium. Thank you.
Good. And thank you. I want to start by congratulating the board director, hard work you guys put in getting the right cabin launched this October 1st. Things going pretty well. I think a lot of people grabbed and looking good out there on the road. I do have some questions. Who is you guys have contact date? But in contact us when the website first got updated. I couldn't find any minutes at that time. Easy to answer. I did previously kind of yesterday. Looking through the web page and I did kind of. So there's that. And right now on the website, there's a link to careers. Provide directly to Battle Creek's website to hire any employee throughout the city of Battle Creek, not just for Wright County. If there's a way to provide a link to another Wright County site with just open positions for Wright County instead of trying to hire for the entire city of Battle Creek. Finally, I've been approached by many coworkers as for the open positions within Wright County. They've been wondering why it went public at the same time that it was open to them. Made the employees feel as if the notion of promotion from within will possibly be sidestepped in favor of someone who has maybe a better education for state of the game.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you.
Those are 3 questions. I'm waiting for you to be, okay, all right. I know that well, that's good. You may have some follow-up questions. So I know the first thing is kind of a transitional thing with King Media. I'll ask the director. I think we resolved that.
Yeah, so we were able to get the inbox up and working, and I replied to you on October 15th at 6:59 p.m.
Oh, man, so thank you for your technical answer.
Yahoo? It was. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So it just for the public's knowledge, that we transferred responsibility from one agency to another. And during that transition, we also made improvements to the website, things of that nature. And we know when we make shifts like that, those things can be kind of clunky. But it looks like we've got our response time back down to within 24 to 48 hours or something along those lines. And trying to be receptive to that. I know that was a thing earlier. I'll let the director choose to respond to those other pieces, but
Yeah, so I will respond to the two questions on the careers part. Because of the contractual relationship between the authority and the city of Battle Creek, everybody hired from this point until July 1st will remain a City of Battle Creek employee. They'll be hired as a City of Battle Creek employee and will be part of that transition over in July. So because the authority is not directly hiring, the city controlled the posting and the job application process, which is why it's listed on the City of Battle Creek's website. We did list it on the Ride Calhoun website with a link to the City of Battle Creek one. But although it went public, our priority is internal candidates first. So, we did meet yesterday to review the candidates, and we have both internal and external candidates for all of the positions. Yes.
That we're viewing people from the outside and they favor them based on an education purpose. Hiring somebody from without knowledge of transit directly, like I said, that skin in the game. Versus hiring someone over getting a business degree, look at it,
Yeah.
They both have learning curves. So it's, I guess it's just a matter of how much either the city or TACC wants to bend the qualifications or make exceptions.
We actually specifically crafted the job descriptions to include a bullet that said, a substitute, you can substitute experience for the education. And I think that is equally as valuable as an education, somebody who's been within the organization. So
Absolutely.
our priority is the internal promotion first, as long as we have, adequate applications from internal candidates. I think we've identified that we have several outstanding internal candidates or applicants that would be moving forward in the process. And we expect that to start next week.
And I'd just like to say, I appreciate you bringing those questions, especially from staff to this body, so that we can have an opportunity for a graduated response directly versus, sometimes we talk amongst ourselves and make assumptions. So I appreciate the dialogue. Thank you. Okay.
I appreciate the consistency because I've heard that before. When we met with the employees, that was mentioned as well. So the message is consistent.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other public comments? Hey, how are you, Jeff?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jeff Franklin, Yes, executive director. Public comments on non-agenda items. One, the brand new website versus the improved. I really think you can find what you're looking for, and it's great. I attended the TACC public event, City of Battle Creek. At the Cool Family Center. Swag was very nicely provided by TACC. Presentation. I love the fact that you had a prolonged Q&A with the local constituents on both sides of the coin. Just as much, anti as pro in the room, which was interesting from my very objective perspective. I have to be objective with all my members, and that's the way it is. But from my completely objective perspective on TACC itself, it was interesting. And then while I won't comment on the LDDA financing plan directly, I don't envy the decision making. I do think that you handled your conversation, asking the right questions about value-added TACC specifically, and also about having advisory on LPA. I did serve on the steering committee for the LPA's most recent plan that the city has since adopted, the Becker Road corridor. There are a lot of significant improvements that are proposed in that plan. BCATS makes a very nice write-up in that plan. It's important to note that the collection of local dollars by the LTDA allows them to leverage federal and state dollars through BCATS programs for direct road improvements. The road improvements that I particularly like about that LTDA plan is a complete Beckland road between Mingus 6 Mile Road, as well as right size and Glen Cross Road between us. Capital. Both of those have the ability to add better non-motorized and transit components. I think I understand that your TACC transit route uses Capital Southwest and Beckland Road is one of the highest travel routes as far as passengers. So road improvements, non-motorized improvements, and transit improvements. That's part of the value added that you get of participation with them and making happen that LTV plan particularly like. And that's all for non-agenda topics.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that feedback on that community event. Those, the community event that Jeff was referring to, one was in Battle Creek and another one in Albion. And, you know, just from my perspective, having attended those and participating along with the director, I get nervous when there's not conjecture in the room on something this big. A healthy conversation is passionate people coming to events and expressing how they feel and giving us an opportunity to have dialogue, especially if it's in a respectful way, regardless of your opinion, input, or what have you. So I think that both of those had very healthy discussion. We learned some things that maybe we hadn't considered for future consideration and strategy. And some of our thought processes and our strategy were reinforced. And that makes me happy that this body and our decision-making is headed in the right direction. And we're only at the precipice of improvements overall, swag included. So I want to recognize those that didn't see Jeff. He's wearing Riot Calhoun swag.
I see that.
So it's good.
In red.
No, we appreciate that. And we appreciate your supports from BCATS. So thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Moving on to board and executive director. Any communications to the board?
No, I will share that we received a FOIA request shortly after the last community event. I believe the FOIA request came in on the 9th, and we have responded to that. So that is closed.
Great. Any other communications to the board? Okay. Legislative updates?
State budget. So state budget, I think, last time we talked, we were approaching a state shutdown. We have avoided that on the state side, at least. And the state budget turned out much more favorable for transit than we went into it thinking. We have, for the first time in a long time, secured a sustainable and longer-term contribution to local bus operating, which comes out of the CTF. With there being some changes in the way funds are flowing through Act 51 and the CTF as it relates to the fuel tax, as it relates to the neighborhood, what is the neighborhood road fund or something that they just created? That neighborhood road fund has a line item for transit for local bus operating assistance that has gone unappropriated. I meet with MDOT again this week to help understand what their intent with those additional funds are. It's about $35 million that is intended for transit, but has not been appropriated to transit yet. So there's some disagreement on where the money was intended to go or how that money was intended to be used for transit. They've also created a new authority within MDOT that is for innovative projects, regional collaboration, and we're working with MDOT to understand what eligible projects might look like for that and how we can collaborate to connect more regionally. And those eligible projects would be able to have operating and capital expenses reimbursed. For legislative updates.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, I'll invite you back up for your BCAS update.
Jeff Franklin, BCAS Executive Director. Frequently BCAS updates, when work is wrapping up, thankfully. The Columbia project, shortly. Market modernization project will continue for the next 2 years, but the I-69 ramps are supposed to reopen next week. So that's very good. At the start of every fiscal year, the estimates that MDOT has provided BCATS and federal aid are given actual deposits. So the estimates this year for various programs for approximately $1.3 million programmatically over all programs for BCATS. It came in less than $1,000 in actual change. I have never seen it so close. $1,000 different. Typically, at the beginning of each year, we're looking at subtracting somewhere in the $20,000 to $50,000 range from our program. What we estimated was $20,000 to $50,000 too high. This year, we're subtracting $917. It does affect each TACC. TACC has had $171,000 in carbon reduction funds program in fiscal year 26. It is now $170,795. So you're losing 200. Rounding, it's basically the same number. That is all.
Any questions for Jeff? I'd just like to state publicly that I'm appreciative of the work being 99.9% complete on the Columbia interchange near my residence. It is nice, and it's a different flow. So thank you. That's why that 69 thing is open. All those people went over there, and they're going to open up those ramps too. So. No response needed. I'm just saying it's a fact. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brendan, I do miss those BCAS meetings. I know you haven't attended one yet, but I'll give you all of my grievances for you to take in there. Sit in that position. They move on those things very quickly, sir. So it's good. Moving on to I think we have Peter. Peter.
Yep, Peter is on the call.
Peter, did you have any updates for us worth noting?
I think that everything seems to be proceeding smoothly from our perspective and moving along. We understand that this is going to be a challenging transition year. Hopefully by the end of the year that everything will have been put in place. I understand also that the FTA certification had to be approved today. And then the other thing is that we will be contacting Mallory to get a general update about issues that she may be concerned about. So we are prepared to help her and you all with the next steps. I do think that the workshop proposed for the 11th might be problematic because of the date. And so I did send communication to you about should that occur, maybe it should occur before, or maybe think about when it needs to occur. And that's partially one of the questions we were going to ask Mallory is what would be the subject for this particular workshop? Because the workshops are things that your consultants would like to be able to attend. That's where I think you get the best value of our presence. The questions that you've inquired about what do TIFAs do regarding transit properties in Michigan is something we'll also look at so that we might have a good idea of what's occurring in other communities. And so we may be doing some outreach regarding that. Maybe to be helpful to what's going on here. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this point.
Nope, I think we're good. We'll tackle that date thing on our next item and kind of go from there. You heard Peter mention a little bit of investigation on TIF districts and what have you. This LDDA is not the only district that is on our radar. We do have a rather robust district, which I'm extremely familiar with, in Fort Custer. And I know some dialogue has happened with the leadership in that body in terms of capture or pass through or what have you. Just to state in the brief conversations, the main concern is, can they expect the level of service that they have today in an expansion of service or improvements or what have you? And so the good thing that we've done is, Mallory, they've invited us to speak at, I believe, a TIFA meeting, HR groups, and maybe a manufacturing group as well, which of course we're excited about doing those things so that we understand the expanding needs of the Fort Custer area, as well as they understand this is the level of service that we plan on providing in our new strategy going forward. So those are other TIF type pieces that we hope to create a standardized plan for going forward and an understanding, in that realm. So, all right, cool. Moving on, this November 11th date for committee workshop, that the reason for pause on that is that's Veterans Day.
Yes.
So it's, what's the pleasure of the board? Do we forego that meeting in observance of Veterans Day and move that content into the 25th and what have you? I would make this suggestion, kind of get the discussion going. If our agenda is somewhat light on the 25th, okay, and that is a couple of days before Thanksgiving, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So travel is a concern, but if the agenda is light, maybe we can have an hour worth of workshop and an hour worth of, or 30 minutes worth of, like we've done in the past. What's your pleasure on the first part of that is canceling the Veterans Day meeting. And then the second part is making the adjustments on the 25th. Amy.
Is there an opportunity, or would anybody be interested in instead meeting on the 18th? Like, the week in between those two, which doesn't have a holiday related to it, or no?
You mean moving both the workshop and the?
Yeah, if we have workshop content, yeah. And then, no, I'm just throwing it out there as it's no holiday that week.
It's a very valid question, given the
Making
day.
a face like,
No, I mean, I won't be in attendance. I know my face is very expressive. You have to ignore that. Okay. But
So have Board of Health
okay.
on the 18th.
uh-oh. So that fills in quick. So we're back in the kind of original, what's your pleasure thing?
I can add the extra hour if necessary.
On the 25th?
What extra?
You were talking about adding to the board meeting?
Yeah, so what
Bringing that in, well, if it takes an hour, it may not,
yeah.
take an hour, but.
So we had incredible content today, and I'm looking at the amount of time that it took to do this meeting.
Mhm.
And I'm making an estimate based on what we put on the agenda items and what we have coming in November. And I believe we can get through that in 45 minutes or so. And then we can transition into the second half of the other hour being a
Sure.
workshop.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yep.
We've set aside time for these 2 days, so at least we are
Yeah.
working within those
We're combining
days.
that.
I think you're saying we have 2 hours set for this, but we can do both within that 2 hours.
Yes, on the 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, the workshop would be one last discussion of fair, in a fair proposal, and a recap of the community events. We have some survey data that we would be able to go over at that time and give feedback and start discussing if we want to have additional community events. So,
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Good with that? I see a lot of nods and what have you. So we'll go ahead and make that amendment in observance of Veterans Day and move those two things. Peter, please make note of that based on your comment that the 25th would be a workshop day, a hybrid, if you will. And then I believe that on November 22nd, do you want to talk about that a little bit? I know we didn't add that to the thing.
Oh, yes. So as we talk about community events that we participate in, one of the events we're participating in this year that we've always participated in before, but now this will be the first time Ride Calhoun gets to do it, is the Christmas parade. So I believe is it the Harper Creek Optimist Club or something that puts on the Battle Creek Christmas parade?
Mhm.
So we've registered, I believe, all three vehicles, the Max, the Move, and the Flex. And we intend to walk in the parade. We usually, staff brings, their families. We drive all of the vehicles. We've also historically done the Marshall Parade. And so, we'll continue to register for that one when and if it's open, for the Marshall one as well. And then if Albion does a Christmas parade, just let us know how to sign up and we'll plan on being there.
Okay, with the chamber, but I'll let you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we know the date of the Marshall Christmas? December 1st?
Monday.
Monday after Thanksgiving. That's the best way to remember it.
And I would encourage the associates to attend if they wish the parade piece. So
It's always a lot of fun. We usually have a pretty good staff turnout for people in the parade.
Albion's is December 6th.
December 6th.
Excuse me. Wait a minute, let me go back.
Is that a Saturday?
No. Must be December 4th, but I'll get back with you. I'll let you know.
and I've already asked if those walking in the street, not riding a bus, can we can get some more Ride Calhoun cookies to hand out. So those are my favorite. Okay.
Before we close, I see board comments have been taken off, or did we ever have board comments? But I would like to make a comment.
Yeah.
Just to say thank you for the Albion meeting. I think it wasn't as well attended. I mean, we had a good representation of people there who were interested, and the word has spread. So I think we're off to a good start. I still would like to have some kind of flyer with options, transportation options. So if a person wants to go to Marshall or go to Battle Creek, at least they will have, this is where they go, these are the times, and this is the process. So I think that is, very much needed. And soon as we get there, we will farm it out to the community, and that will be helpful.
Yes, and we're working on that flyer.
Okay. But the event was, well, I've only received positive comments, but you did receive a felt opinion. But that's good also, because the word can spread in terms of being the negative opinion. So at least I thank you for working with that situation.
Welcome.
Okay. Point of order. The board and executive director comments are under item number A, communications to the board. So that hasn't been omitted. There's a spot for that. So
Where?
look down after public comments on non-agenda. I couldn't let you leave here with that.
Communications to the board, I interpret it as communications to the board, not from the board.
Under board and executive director comments. So Vivian and I are fighting. We can take this into the hallway later, possibly into the parking lot with Vivian's posture. But thank you very much for your attendance today, both public staff and board. I'll Call the meeting adjourned.